Judge Lavergne, you said yesterday, I believe, that that 8 people that you had managed to release 8 people, therefore who had not been executed. You spoke about in particular in your statements, I don't think maybe you mentioned it yesterday, but in your statement before the co-investigating judges, you spoke about a certain Ham Hin. Can you tell us, can you confirm that Ham Hin is someone that you released? And can you explain to us what was what kind of relation you had with this Ham Hin?
Your Honor, said the accused, I released 10 people, but when I responded before the co-investigating judges, I could remember only 8 people. After reading the book of Bizot, then I could remember another 2 names. So recently, I noticed KW30, he is the person I released at that time. So altogether 10 people were released by me. And I talked about this to the co-investigating judges concerning Ham In. Ham In and myself had never been in contact before, but I knew his father. I knew his father clearly, the late Mr. Ham. Among the cadres of Liang commune, Brother Ham was the poorest comrade and was the most gentle person. So when I noticed there were 5 people who were arrested and sent to us, at the beginning I asked them to interrogate briefly and grasp their biography, and I noted that Ham In was the son of Brother Ham. And I told myself, if I tortured In and then smash In, then Brother Ham would come and intervene. Then to avoid this, I went to Duch alias to release In. Brother C said, Duch, this person arrested by Brother Pal, so you could ask him. Then I went to meet Brother Pal, and Pal listened to my plea, my request. He said that, Duch, wait, I would like to ask permission from the standing committee of the zone. And then a few days later, Brother Hock been informed that the standing committee allowed the person to leave, but could not be released. And then I was warned not to kill the person. He could be shackled and let out to work in the daytime, but not smashed. So I did not know in particular, but I had some relation with his father because I knew him. So when I met In at the first time, I knew that he was born in the year of Momi in Khmer, and I talked to him. I don't know why the person who born in this kind of year is attracted to being jailed. So that's why I had some kind of sentiment toward him from that beginning, because I knew his father, Brother Ham. So I tried to release people if I could, whether or not I think releasing In was the most difficult job that I ever done.
George Lavaigne. I think that at the very beginning of this hearing, we mentioned that a document would be used, that is D59 Annex 4. This is a statement collected by a representative of DC CAM from a person called Ham Hin. And these statements are dated 17th of August 2001. I should like to add that the said Ham In was the subject of a request for an interview by the co-prosecutors during the investigation, and that the verification subsequently made by the co-investigating judges led to the information that Ham In, as we understood it, died in 2003. In the statements in D59 Annex 4, Ham In talks about his experience as a detainee and an employee, support staff member in M13. He describes Duch as being the head of M13 and the person who decided on who to be killed and who was to be executed, to be interrogated. He lists a number of forms of violence used for interrogation, and he states that he was an eyewitness to the following events. He states that he witnessed blows, the detainees being hit. In particular, he says that his cousin was cut all over his body with a knife, that he bled, his blood was collected in a basin. He also says that, and he tried this himself, that he saw detainees hanging from their wrists, from their feet, by their feet. He indicates also that needles were stuck into or under the nails of the detainees. Some had their nails ripped off. He also states that torture using a torch and hot wax dripped on the body was used. He also indicates that soapy water was forced down the throats of the detainees by the guards. He stated that the accused himself carried out torture. He described particularly cruel scenes. He further states that children were asked to visit violence on the detainees, and he explained that he thinks he was saved because he was advised that to admit that he had been an enemy, that is, that he had been a policeman with 3 marks on his shoulders. When the accused released him, the accused asked him to work for him, that is, to spy on the other detainees for him. And this person, Ham In, that is, mentions a large number of executions in M13. The accused mentioned 200 to 300 persons. And if I'm not mistaken, Ham talks about 30,000 detainees killed. So I would like to hear what you think about this. Have you read this statement?
The accused, I did not read Hom in statement, but having listened to the statement read out by Your Honor, I think there will be another event that need to be investigated, especially the dead bodies of the detainees who were smashed at M13. People who were smashed at M13 were not buried far away from M13 location, maybe just 100 meters from their premises. There were 3 locations at Thmo Kup on Long Wang, 2 at Ta Liu location, and at the third location at Trop between the river and the Tropang Chrap. So the remaining evidence can prove that the people died when and how many of them were buried there. So according to the statement I already confessed to the nation and the people, it is clear. The other dead body in other locations were the dead body of the Khmer people who died because of the CPK. And once again, I would like to apologize for those kind of crimes. And I am very regretful, and I would like to offer condolences to the family of the dead people. But again, only 200 to 300 detainees were smashed at M13, no 30,000 or something like that. You may see how many people were brought in at any given day at M13. For example, yes, at any given day there were about 20 to 30 people brought in. So you could calculate it. So I told you that there was a en masse influx of victims, but I told you already those people were sent to this northwest, leaving only few for M13 to interrogate. So the whole village, the people of the whole village were temporarily brought into M13, but not only for not for execution or interrogation, only for the transit. So this is the account of the event that I would like to report, that there were 2 separate en masse arrests, but not for the M13 alone, but for the northwest zone, and M13 served as the transit area. And I would maintain my position that there were pits that detainees were buried, and these pits will be used as the locations where this body could be resumed to find out the truth. And I still maintain that I accept all the crimes I committed, and before the ECCC and before the whole nation.
Alors,
Judge Laveigne. Now, an excerpt of the document will be read in the French. It is page 6. This concerns the episode of the drowning.
donc en version française, la question est...
The French version is as follows. With regard to the flooding story, how did it happen?
The President, I note the Robert Patti is on his feet.
With your leave, Mr. Petit says, could you please refer, Your Honor, to the ERN number at the bottom of each page or at the top of each page? This would help for better transcript and for the reference of the parties, because the pages do not correspond in the original and the translation.
Dans ma version française, je n'ai pas de numéro d'IRN.
George Lavergne, I do not have an ERN number in my French version. Perhaps in the English there might be one. Mr. Petit, is this what was filed on the 6th of April in the record of the case, George Lavergne? It is the only one that exists. Mr. Lavergne, Mr. Petit, beg your pardon. Perhaps it has not yet been given an ERN number. Mr. Ho, on Xylab we have the ERN number 0029 5087 in the French version.
Voilà, mais est-ce que tout le monde a...
Mr. Lavergne, George Lavergne, has everyone found the paragraph? And I repeat the question, with regard to the flood, how did the flood happen? Has everyone found this paragraph? The interpreter would like to indicate that for the English version, it is 00289745. George Lavergne, could you give the ERN for the English? Mr. Petit, in the English version, it is 00289745. Mr. Ho, could the Khmer ERN be provided? Perhaps the co-prosecutor could help us. I'm afraid I do not speak Khmer myself. I'm sorry. The interpreter can say, Mr. Petit interrupts. Perhaps it can be provided subsequently, but the interpreter can indicate that the Khmer ERN is 00002086. George Lavergne, if all parties are agreed, I shall read out the document. How did the flood came? Many people died. Before that time, I had been released. I looked all right. They made me work in the rice in the field, but under their supervision. During that flooding, they made me swim and transport prisoners, and I took them to areas where there was no flood. I helped them to cross the water and gathered them somewhere. Those who stayed too late were drowned. As I said before, some were detained separately in cells, others in the collective pits, each of 3 by 3 meters, here and there. When the water came suddenly, many prisoners died. Tasum was also a boss, but he was the subordinate of Duch. At that time, Tasum interrogated me. He prepared a paper and pen so that I could spy on Duch. So I said to him that we shouldn't do that, because when elephants fight, elephants die and ants do not die. How many dead were there after the water receded finally? Answer, there were many. He asked me what was going on. we were cooking potatoes, he asked me to spy on Duch because apparently there were many people dead. He asked me this because he couldn't believe how many people had died. I knew it. I did not dare to tell him before. I confirmed that there was a large number of dead people and that he could ask the guards if he didn't believe me. The guards confirmed this. I saved 6 or 7 women. They were not in a good physical state and they were very thin. I brought them to dry land. End of reading. George Laverne continues. This is a different version from what you indicated for us. The first difference is that some women detainees were taken to dry land, but a number of people, according to this person, a large number of people were drowned. The other piece of information is that he says that he was asked to spy on you and to denounce you as somehow being responsible for these deaths. What do you have to say to that?
The accused, regarding the people who died of the flood, I still maintain my statement that those people who were evacuated, all were evacuated to a dry land. No one were drowned, but those people died of weak physical state, but died later, not died during the flood. And it was not convinced that Comrade Sum, of course Sum was my superior, but he, as a subordinate, he worked at 13B. He did not have any thing to do with relation to communicate with guards to spy on me. And I would like to confirm that in my capacity as the person who oversaw M13A when this incident happened and that the detainees were at risk, then the superior did not try to punish me. Even people who escaped from Taliu, and I asked them to punish me from the police work, then they did not take any action. So I don't think that he contacted Hom in to spy on me. I think it was not true.
George Laverne. I'm going to read another excerpt from this document. This is on page 10 of the French. I am going to read from the question, during your imprisonment, did you meet Duch often? Can the French ERN be provided? 00295091 in the French version, says Mr. Roux. Has the page been found in the English? Mr. Petit, could we have the question, please? George Laverne, the question is as follows. Did you meet Duch often during your imprisonment? Answer, I met him every day.
Parlait-il avec vous?
Judge Laverne continues. Did he speak with you? He talked to me a lot when I was jailed. The Khmer version is 00002086. So, Mr. Petit, the ERN for the English is 0289749. I must say that the English and the French versions are relatively different. This was the case for what you read previously. The versions are significantly different. Mr. Ho and the defense would like to recall that this is not a judicial document. It was not a judicial document from the start. It was collected by a non-governmental organization for whom we have a great deal of respect, but it is not from the co-investigating judges. I think this should always be mentioned when this document is being used.
Alors, je vais procéder à la lecture.
Judge Laverne, I am going to read. If there is a significant difference, then please indicate it to me so that it can be corrected if necessary. So, during your imprisonment, did you meet Duch often? Answer, I met him often. Did he talk with you? Question. Answer, he talked to me a lot during my detention. He was not arrogant, not even towards his subordinates. He was intransigent. When he wanted to execute a prisoner, he would point his finger at him and say, "Take that one to be executed." When he chatted normally and laughed normally like everyone. But when he said that he was going to beat a prisoner, he did it immediately. Question. Did you see this with your own eyes? Mr. Petit.
In English and seek guidance.
Je vais m'adresser à la Cour et je vais...
You read a passage or at the end of your passage?
Est-ce qu'il s'agit simplement
Judge
d'un
Laverne,
passage?
is it a missing passage? Or is it a completely different meaning? If it's a completely different meaning, then there is no purpose in reading the document. Is there a missing passage, or is there something that means something completely different?
Merci, monsieur.
Mr. Petit, I would not have interrupted if it was something minor. It is a missing passage. Also, the version appears to be different. Do you wish me to correct the English? Or perhaps one might suggest that the Khmer version be read. So a Khmer-speaking person would read the Khmer, which is the original, which was recorded by the interviewer and the witness, and that will be interpreted by the interpreters. And that interpretation would be the most accurate reflection of what the witness said, and the accused could then be questioned about that. So I suggest that we refer to the original text, which was filed with our introductory submission in 2007, and perhaps I respectfully suggest one of the judges could read out the text, and then our interpreters could interpret. I think that would be the most faithful rendition of what the witness said.
Monsieur le Président, Madame et Messieurs.
Mr. President, Your Honor, says Mr. Ho. The defense would like to say something. I understand the proposal of the Office of the Prosecutor, but I am somewhat in difficulty because in the French there is no indication as to who asked the question, who was the interpreter? Did the interpreter take an oath, and if so, in front of whom? I'm sorry, but there is a minimum of rules of procedure to be followed. And I'm going to fall in with the common law system. And I would have preferred us to deal only with witnesses who can appear before the court. Because here we have a witness whose statement was collected in conditions that we know nothing about. And now we can see that the French and the English are different. And then there is going to be a reading of the Khmer without knowing who it is who took the statement. So perhaps the person who took the statement could be called to appear, otherwise we should stop. Mr. Petit, thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of this exercise is to have the accused's comment concerning a statement by a person whom he says he knows and detained and freed, that he was close to, and someone with whom he said he was close. So it is alleged that this witness said a number of things. The accused has already made comments about these events. I fail to see any difficulty because prior statements can be presented to the accused or any other witness. This is a statement by a witness that the accused said he had dealings with. Let us put these allegations to him, and then we shall hear his position in regard to the allegations, because there will be other witnesses from N13 who will come to give testimony, perhaps with regard to the same allegations. Then we will have a full picture, then we can put it to the accused.
Tout à l'heure, j'ai procédé à un résumé.
A while ago, says Judge Laverne, I summarized the document. Are the parties in agreement with the summary which I prepared based on the version I have? Do you wish me to reread this summary? I do not think that it is necessary to read one version or another if the versions are different. But is there agreement as to the resume or the summary as I read it out? Mr. Hu, Your Honor, once more, the defense expresses the following reservation. Even the summary that you read out is based on a statement made by a person who is not a professional who is not under oath, and who was acting only at the behest of an non-governmental organization. So we should be extremely prudent. To respond to my learned friend, in the civil law system, these are people who are interviewed first by policemen and investigating judges whose statements can be read out. This is not the case here. This is an NGO which has decided to go and interview witnesses. That could well be true, but this is not judicial evidence. Judge Laverne, I think it was stated clearly at the beginning of this hearing that these documents were not taken or prepared as part of judicial proceedings, but they were in the record of the case. They contain a number of allegations, and it was said that the accused would be afforded the possibility or the opportunity of giving his viewpoint on these allegations. So it is obvious that this document is not part of the proceedings. Mr. Hu, this is what the defense wanted to point out. And to answer your initial question, says Mr. Petit, I think that the summary that you prepared a while ago of the witness statement was essentially what he said.
Please, the co-prosecutor, say the President. Mrs. Chia Liang, thank you, the President, and your honors. As Judge Lavange already raised, the witness already died. So, although the statement was conducted by an NGO, I would like to tell the national judge that in Khmer, we have page 12 that you can refer to on the document D108/27.4. So I think the investigating judges do not need to ask further because the person was deceased already. But the reason to bring this matter is only to ask the accused to confirm whether the testimony of that witness is true, and we want to hear from the accused whether the relevant witness testimony is true. So I would like to confirm to the national judges that the document is available in Khmer. The document is D/08/77.4 in Khmer version.
Je crois que l'accusé souhaitait apporter son...
I believe that the accused wanted to provide his comment in relation to what is being said. The accused